طلعته والليل سجى من وفرته. الله 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 محمد, peace be upon his soul. The greatest of prophets, Islam was his only goal.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on all of you. To another in the series, Pearls of the Prophet, in which the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, has advised us to prohibit evil in society. We're encouraged to command good, and part of that involves prohibiting evil. We should always oppose evil in society. عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده، فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه، فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه، وذلك أضعف الإيمان. رواه Muslim. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri quoted the Messenger of Allah as saying, whoever among you sees wrong should stop it with his hands. If he's unable, let him speak out against it. And if he's still unable, let him stop it with his heart. And that is the lowest level of faith. In our lives, we experience good and evil. We are enjoined as a part of faith to command the good in society, to encourage people to righteousness. Allah defines the righteous Muslim people as those who command the good and forbid the evil. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. Allah says, you are the best of mankind, the best nation which has been raised up amongst mankind, because you command the good and prohibit the evil and believe in Allah. The condition for our being the best of mankind is that we command the good and prohibit the evil. Commanding the good we all recognize, but commonly people neglect prohibiting evil. To command the good means to prohibit the evil. Prohibiting evil is commanding the good. They are inseparable. So whenever we see, observe in society something which is evil, it is our duty to stop it. If we're in a position of authority, then it is a responsibility for us to stop that thing. Not enough for us merely to speak out against it. We must stop it. For those in authority, we must not permit evil to take place in the area of our authority. God will hold us to account for it. As the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, said, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Each and every one of you is like a shepherd, and each and every one of you is responsible for his flock. The area of authority each and every one of us will be asked about. The leader over society, the man over his family, the woman over the children, each and every one of us has a responsibility, and we'll be asked about that responsibility on the Day of Judgment. So where we have an area of authority, we have to stop evil from taking place directly with our hands. That is, we stop it. However, if it requires telling someone to stop this, to turn that off, or to not permit it or whatever, this is stopping it with our hands. In other words, we deal with it directly. If we're unable, because this is not an area of authority, our neighbor's child is doing something wrong, we are not allowed to take it upon ourselves to discipline that child, then we are instructed to speak out against it, to inform the family, tell them this is wrong, this child is doing wrong, so on and so on. So in an area which is not our authority, we should then speak out against evil. We advise those in authority over us about what is wrong. Not that we just revolt against them and, start cursing them or whatever. No, no. Where we have, demonstration, burning down buildings, etc. This is not the way. If we see wrong, we're not in a position to stop it with our hands, then we advise. Ad-dinu nasiha. As Muslims, we advise those in authority over us. We point out to them, and of course advice has to be given in a proper way. Not putting advertisements in the newspapers and, embarrassing people. No, we go to the people directly and we advise them that this is not correct. This should not be. And if we're incapable of even giving that advice, the circumstance is such that if you speak out against something, you will be killed, or you will create such commotion and a problem that you're creating a bigger problem than you're solving. In such a circumstance, then we hate it in our hearts. At least we stop it in our hearts. We do not accept it. We do not make it something which is now acceptable to us, which we'll just go along with. Externally, maybe we have to go along with it, but internally our hearts have rejected it. And that is the lowest level of faith. If that's all we can do, of course that's not the lowest level, that is the highest. But if we have a position of authority and we do not stop or speak out against it, it is the lowest level of faith to at least hate it in our hearts. That is the lowest level of faith. Beyond that, there remains no more faith. There remains no more faith. For a person in a circumstance where he cannot stop something with his hands, he cannot speak out against it, then the expression of his faith is to hate that thing in his heart, is to be opposed to it internally. And that state he must retain. That is the basis of a faith, that in our hearts we are opposed to evil. Because when a circumstance presents itself to speak out or to act against evil, if we have that basis, then we will speak out and act. But if we don't have that foundation, then when the opportunity presents itself, we won't say anything. It will be more convenient to us, for us, not to say anything because, we don't want to rock the boat. We are in comfortable circumstance. To say something is going to, create problems for us, the repercussions, etc., etc. So we don't say anything. We don't stop it physically, where we're in a position of authority, because it is not in our interests. It's not in the interest of our families, of our, tribe or whatever, because we don't have that lowest level of faith, the foundation of faith beyond which there is none, wherein we hate this thing, we're opposed to it. So, dear viewers, the advice which the Prophet has given us here, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, is advice that we should carry with us in all walks of life, at all circumstances, within our families, at our jobs, in society as a whole. We should seek to prevent evil. We should call to the good, encourage people to righteousness, but at the same time, we should prevent evil. This is essential, that each and every member of society feel this responsibility, that it's not left only up to the authorities, that it's only the police force or the military or whatever. These are the people who stop evil. No. It must be a duty of each and every citizen in the society to realize that duty, for evil to be really overcome in the society, for it to be minimized. But where it is left only to authorities, only to the police force, then the strength of evil is much greater. The struggle against evil is very weak. The prisons will be full. The crime and the rate of crime in society will be much greater, because the common citizens themselves are not opposing it. not opposing it openly. They may say, oh, it's not good, but who wants to get involved? So you have circumstances where, in London, in New York, in major cities in the West, where women may be raped in the streets and they're screaming. People will walk by and not be involved. They don't want to get involved. Beaten to death in the streets, in the subways, in the presence of people. But people not wanting to get involved allow these people to be harmed in such a way. This is a state of degradation. And the only way that this kind of circumstance can be avoided is if each and every citizen feels a responsibility to prevent evil in society. This is the basis of righteousness. This is the basis of Islamic society. This is what all of the principles of Islam calls us to. Preventing evil. Commanding the good, but preventing evil wherever we can. Because each and every one of us is responsible, has positions of responsibility, positions of authority, about which on the Day of Judgment we all will be asked. So, dear viewers, let us look into our lives. Look at those whom God has placed us in authority over, those who are in our care, and to realize that we love them when we prevent them from evil. That's why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said to his companions, help your brothers whether they are oppressing or being oppressed. The companions asked him, what does this mean, O Messenger of Allah? Helping our brothers when they are oppressed, we can understand. When they are oppressed, we come to their aid. But how can we come to their aid when they are oppressing others? He said, you help them by stopping them from oppressing others. So our expression of love for others is not only in supporting them whenever they're in need of support, but also in preventing them from evil when they need to be prevented. This is true expression of love. This is true support. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you to another in the series, Pearls of the Prophet, in which we'll be looking at different statements of Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and how they are particularly relevant to our lives. The first hadith is as follows. عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الله في عون العبد ما كان العبد في عون أخيه رواه مسلم. Abu Huraira recollected that the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, said, Allah will help his servant as long as the servant helps his brother. Collected by Muslim. Allah will help his servant. Every individual who chooses to submit his will to God, his or her will to God, becomes a servant of God. Allah has promised here, through his final messenger, that his help is dependent on the servant's help to his brother. There is nothing that Allah has to gain from us and what we do. We are the ones as human beings who need the help of God. This is something each and every one of us in our lives has no doubt about. We turn to God in our time of need. Though we should turn to him not only in our times of need, but also in the times when good things have come to us, to be thankful, and in the times when others have needs, etc. However, it is natural for us, and most commonly we turn to God in the time of need. And we expect God to help us. However, others around us in the society, when they are in need and they turn to us, we're not willing to help them. We find one excuse or another excuse not to help them. Allah is informing us here that we have to consider our position. That if we seek to earn the help of God, we only deserve it when we have put our hands out to help other human beings. The term brother is used here. Some may understand this to mean that Allah will help us as long as we help our Muslim brothers and sisters. However, this is not what is intended here, meaning that if we were not to help non-Muslims, then it doesn't matter, Allah will still help us. No, this is not the case. When people are in need, genuine need, then we as believers have a duty to help them, regardless of what their faith is, their creed, whatever. Where there is oppression, where there is harm, then it is our duty to come to the aid of others. However, our primary duty, we have people in various situations. Our primary duty is to help our own brothers, those of the same faith. How can we abandon them and go to help others who are not of the faith? There is a question mark here. It's like a situation with a family. If there are people, your neighbors, they're in need, and your family is in need, for you to leave your family and go to help your neighbors is not really correct, because your first responsibility, your primary responsibility is to help your own family. This is why we have that statement, a well-known saying, that charity begins at home. This is real. If a person is not charitable in their own homes, then we question that charity outside of the homes. And this is why also we have so much in Islam which encourages us to find out the situation of our fellow Muslims. We find, for example, in our daily prayers. Our daily prayers require us, particularly the males of the society, to be in congregation, praying side by side, in lines, in which the first one who gets there stands in line before God in prayer. There are no special places for anybody. So, in any given mosque where people are praying, the rich and the poor will be side by side. This gives the believers an opportunity to know something of the situation of those around them. Because if we are secluded, those of us who God has blessed or favored with wealth, etc., we only exist in wealthy circles, then it's very easy to not have any kind of compassion or concern about others. So the prayer forces the believers, if they practice it, forces them to mix with all segments of the society in order for them to be aware. This is part of the purpose, to be aware of the situations of others in the society. So they would fulfill their responsibility with regards to their wealth and the needs of others. As Allah said in the Quran, describing the believers, in their wealth are rights for those who are needy, the beggars and the needy. This is a right. It is not a favor in that sense, that when one of us has wealth more than others, we give to others. This is not us doing others a personal favor. This is a right which they had on our wealth, which we are fulfilling. If we don't fulfill it, then we have put ourselves in a situation of sin. There's a curse here. So it's not an issue. This is why we shouldn't feel, as Allah speaks about the charity, it is better to just give a good word to somebody, to say a good word to them, than to give them charity and let them know what you have done for them. That is, you will remind them, I did this for you and I did that for you, and, you're obliged to me. That kind of charity is useless. Useless in the sense that it will not earn you any reward. The person may benefit from it, but there is no reward for you. For those of us who laud over others our charity, there is no reward for us. That lauding cancels the value of our charity. Better we just said to them a good word. So we should realize as believers that coming to the aid of others is fulfilling a responsibility, not doing a favor. Fulfilling a responsibility, because it is the destiny of God which has put us in that position to come to the aid of others. God destined this, and He destined it for a reason. To help us to grow spiritually by being in that situation where others are in need, and we now are obliged to come to the aid of others. When we overcome our desires not to come to the aid of others, but to ignore the situation of others, to spend our time with ourselves, our immediate families, or whatever, when we overcome that desire and come out of ourselves and help others, then we grow. So this is why God has destined for us certain situations in life where we're in a position to help others. If we grasp those situations, if we understand the bigger picture, then each and every one of those situations we are blessed for. As long as we have made the intention to help others for the sake of Allah, because we know this is their right, it is our duty, and we do it. We have the intention to do it, even if we're not successful. We try to, but we're not successful, not able to help the person completely or whatever, but we are rewarded for our intention and for whatever actions we do. So, dear brothers and sisters, it's very important for us to reflect on this principle, that if we want from God mercy, love, help, success, all these different things, then we have to be willing to do the same for others who are in need of our help, or our mercy, or our love. This is the real situation which each and every one of us has to grasp, because we find ourselves constantly in life in these circumstances. They are for our benefit, or they cannot be for our benefit. They can be a curse against us. Our wealth, our success, etc., all of these things can be curses if we do not use them for the sake of God, because it is only the destiny of God which has put us in the positions that we are. With that, dear viewers, I'd like to conclude reminding you, as Allah said, Allah will help His servant as long as the servant helps his brother. This is real. This is Islam to be practiced on a daily basis. And I hope that you will continue to follow these segments of the program, Pearls of the Prophet. I bid you now farewell. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الصبح بدا من طلعته والليل دجى من وفرته الله